Alright, so today we're looking at a character that many fans do really like and are wondering if he'll ever return. A lot of the conversation around his return was honestly set around Reverse. A lot of people want him to be a playable character in that game, mainly because of, who he is and who he works for and stuff like that. I think he'd be a pretty good addition to the game. But the question remains, even in the mainline series, now that Umbrella doesn't exist and there's this new blue Umbrella, is he still part of that? Is he somewhere else? No one really knows. But as always, today we'll be going over his backstory all the way up to the events of RE3 and when you first meet him. I'll be using the basis of meeting him from the 3 remake because a lot of people do consider the remakes now to be the canon. I wouldn't personally agree. It's all down to personal preference, but for making it simple, we'll consider 3 remake to be the canon and we'll go from there. So without any further ado, let's just get started. So a lot of his early life, he was a fighter for a guerrilla organization in a South American country. We don't really know the name of it, but he was mainly there helping guerrilla forces try and counteract the government and things they were doing there at the time. A lot of people considered him to be quite courageous, and he would always throw himself into the thick of danger immediately, as well as he would have a really kind of strong sense for justice and making things right, which is very much kind of portrayed in Resident Evil 3 when you see him. However, eventually the government did wipe out his guerrilla force and captured him, and he was sentenced to death, basically. So wherever he was in South America at the time wasn't the best place to be. However, just before he was kind of executed, he was actually scouted and was offered the chance of freedom by the Umbrella Corporation. Doing this, he would be joining them as a UBCS agent, which is the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasures Service. It's a very long name, so UBCS. And he agreed. In exchange for a new life and not being killed, he decided to join the Umbrella Countermeasures Service. And, that's really kind of all the backstory there is, to be honest. So now we'll jump forward to the night of the outbreak in Raccoon City. This was on obviously the 15th of September. The UBCS was mobilised to prepare for a large-scale operation in Raccoon City, which was to go in and deal with the T-Virus outbreak. 4 platoons of about 120 men were prepared to go into the city by Umbrella, and around 26th of September, which is when the game takes place, the outbreak had spread out of control, and a lot of the UBCS were overrun and wiped out. What's interesting is the UBCS teams that were sent in weren't really told an awful lot about why they were going in. Essentially, they were under the impression that they were there to evacuate any survivors in the city and get them to safety before some kind of government strike on the city to basically purify it and cleanse it, which is obviously the destruction of the city. But yeah, like I mentioned, most of the platoons and the units that were sent in were basically either dead or turned within a very small space of time, like a few hours. They were all kind of gone. Carlos' team did manage to kind of survive. They were slightly scattered, but he did in fact meet up with Captain Mikhail, which is obviously the character we meet in Resident Evil 3, who is in charge of his own kind of platoon of men. Mikhail's plan was basically to get loads of survivors into the subway station inside the train, fix the train, and then get them out of the city. That was his kind of plan while he was there. He didn't also really know what was going on. And the Umbrella was basically the ones who caused it, but he was just trying to do what he thought was right and get people out of the city before things went too badly. And then after that, he eventually meets up with Jill, and then the events of the game take place. So that's basically it. There's not really a lot. There's a few characters out here that don't really have a lot of backstory, more so a lead up until the events of the game. But it's still pretty interesting to see, what he was doing beforehand, even if it is very little. In terms of him returning to the series, like I said, a lot of people do want to see him in Reverse, which would make sense. Again, he would be a pretty cool addition to the game, as well as many other characters that could be in that game, but that's a whole different video to talk about. Do I think he will return in the mainline series? There's always a possibility. It just depends on where the story goes. A lot of kind of rumours and leaks about RE9, which I don't believe at all right now, do seem to suggest a big kind of character reunion in that game. Could it be more than what the leaks suggest? Maybe, but we'll have to wait and see. But as always, do let me know what you think of Carlos as a character. Do you want him to return? Do you not like him? Do you think he should have been in the game more than what he was? Or he should have been in more games than what he was? I'm always interested to know. But yeah, that'll do it. I think next up will probably be Sherry. Obviously, there's not really a lot to go off of her in terms of backstory. It's more the stuff between 2 and 6 we'll probably go over. But she's probably next, and then there's a few more coming over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully look forward to those, and as always, remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more Resident Evil content, and I'll see you all in the next one.